Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. It is the first official day of summer here in my mid-Missouri Zone 6 garden, and it is time for me to bring you all out into my raised bed veggie garden. It's been a while since I've shown you what's happening there, and wow, have things started to really produce so many wonderful vegetables and cut flowers and herbs. So I can't wait to take you out into the raised bed garden as we spend some time together harvesting. Before we head out and get to the harvesting, I thought I'd take just a couple of minutes to give you a little bit background on the veggies that I'm going to be showing you today. I want you guys to know how I started these vegetables from seed. Thought it might be helpful for you to hear a little bit about how I like to fertilize my vegetables in my raised bed garden. Let's see, what else? When and how to harvest. Every vegetable is a little bit different, so I thought that would be important information for me to share with you all. And then, of course, what do you do with this harvest? How do I like to use these delicious vegetables in my cooking and in my meal plans, etc.? So that's what today's all about. Before we get into the deets of today's video, I'm going to ask all of you to please like and subscribe to my channel so that I can continue to reach more gardeners just like you. So one of the crops I need to harvest, at least pull some and start using in my kitchen, are green onions or scallions. I'm not growing bulb onions, but rather green onions. And I happen to start that seed inside in my greenhouse in seed cell trays way back in mid-February. Starting onions from seed is really simple. I have found that they're really easy to germinate and get going. So I grew them in seed cell trays till they were probably, I would say they were about 6 inches tall before I took them out and planted them actually in my raised beds. And so I started the seed in February, and I would say 3 or 4 weeks later, they were ready for me to pull out of those seed cell trays and separate them apart and plop them into the garden. So they actually went from seed cell trays to the garden in, I would say, the second week of March. So they've been in there, let's see, 2 or 3 months. Two other crops that I'm going to harvest today are carrots and Swiss chard, both of which I did the direct sow method. So back in, would have been, I think, probably around the second week of March, I direct sowed the carrot seed right out into the raised beds as well as the Swiss chard. So instead of starting those in the greenhouse in my seed till trays, I find it easiest and best to just direct sow those right into the place where they're going to grow and you're going to harvest them. Okay, let's talk fertilizer. So how do I fertilize? What do I use and when do I fertilize? That's what we're going to hit on next. I use 2 products in my vegetable garden, and here they are. I use this organic Espoma Garden Tone granular fertilizer. And for those that care about NPK, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium ratings, every fertilizer package, you should be looking for those 3 numbers. And in this case, Garden Tone is considered a 3-4-4. So pretty evenly balanced nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So I use that. When do I use this? I use it at planting time. So when I plant any of my veggies, it goes in the soil. I work it in. If I'm planting something that is like already grown, there's a start. When I'm opening up the hole to put it in, I put a little bit in the hole. So that's when I use it to begin with. And then first day of the month, first couple of days on my calendar, there's a reminder that I need to apply this again around each of my plants or down the rows of my plants and work it into the top of the soil. So for some of you, this might be overkill, but it works for me in my garden. And so in addition to that granular fertilizer I just showed you, the Garden Tone that I put in on the first day of the month, I also come in about every 2 weeks and I give them a beautiful gourmet drink of this Neptune's Harvest fish and seaweed fertilizer. Yum. Doesn't that sound great? Again, this is an only organic fertilizers for anything that you are going to feed yourself or your family. That includes herbs, that includes edible flowers if you're like me and grow those. So only organic should be going on things that you're going to eat. How do you use this? Pretty simple. This is a highly concentrated fertilizer, so you have to mix it with water and just follow the package directions on whatever liquid fertilizer you choose to use. But in this case, Neptune's Harvest recommends 1/8 of a cup with every gallon of water. So you just do the math. I fill this 1/4 of a cup because I have a 2-gallon watering can here. So 1/4 cup of Neptune's Harvest in here, fill it up, and then I give each of my plants or row plants a drink. They don't need a lot, but I try to do that about every 10 to 14 days. So that's sort of in between that granular fertilizer I showed you. And I'm telling you, this is a winner. It is a 2-3-1, those of you that are paying attention to the NPK rating. Potassium is the middle number. And what I'll say, and I've shared this with you a lot before, potassium sets flowers and produces fruit. So imagine all the things that set flowers and produce fruit in your veggie garden. Tomatoes, peppers, zucchini. You get the idea. Sugar snap peas. They set flowers, and from that flower is some kind of a veggie or fruit production. So sometimes that middle number, if it's a little bit higher, can really help enhance fruit and flower production on your plants. So that's what I do. I'd love to hear in the comment section below what you all like to use, how you like to fertilize your veggie and herb crops. I think we've talked enough about how I grow them from seed, how I like to fertilize them. Let's get out in the garden and I'll show you what's growing, and let's get some harvesting underway. Couldn't be simpler. Just need 2 things for the harvest today. Gonna need my little harvest basket that I always keep in the greenhouse and my pruners. And I don't know if you all have seen my harvest basket before, but isn't this great? First of all, it was a gift from my son, so I love it even more because of that. But it's got this wonderful mesh lining, and so when you harvest things, like today we're going to pull some carrots out, they can be pretty dirty, and you can put your harvest in here, your veggies, and then take a hose to it and rinse off all the dirt and let it drain out before you bring them inside. So yeah, let's head out to the garden and get some delicious veggies to bring in the house and add to probably whatever I'm going to be cooking for dinner. We'll see what we can use. The garden should look very different than it has in past videos because I haven't really shown it off much since the May walkabout. And oh my gosh, you guys, my pepper crop is ridiculous. But that's not what we're going to harvest today. We're going to go over here in this beautiful new Birdie's raised beds that my husband installed for me in the spring, and we're going to work in this bed. So let me set up the camera so I can show you what I'm going to harvest, and we'll talk a little bit about the varieties. So this is the first bed we're going to harvest in, and we're going to harvest, as I mentioned, green onions and some of my carrots. Wanted to share with you all, though, what else is in this bed. The beauty of raised beds is that you can pack things in. I tend to plant my things in raised beds much closer than I would if they were in pots or in the ground. And these very tall raised beds have awesome draining soil. So even though where I live, it has been extremely wet. We have had more rain than we ever have in the spring. I don't know what's going on with the environment, but rain, rain, rain. Now, my veggies are loving all this consistent moisture, and I'm not having to water and waste water. I'm not using my drip irrigation very often because Mother Nature is providing all of that for us. But anyhow, so I pack a lot in. You also know, if you follow my channel, that this garden right here is not just devoted to vegetables. I love to plant all kinds of flowers all throughout the beds, and you'll see that when we move around a little bit. But in this bed, I've got, of course, marigold. So I started this Chica Flame marigold from seed. I grew, I think, at least 24 plants, started them in the greenhouse and planted them. Almost every raised bed has some of these sprinkled in around the corners. I also love nasturtiums, edible flowers, those beautiful plants. And you can see here in the front row, I started from seed directly in this bed by each of the emitters. And so, you know, I didn't start these very long ago, probably only a couple of weeks ago. So they're really baby plants, but eventually they're going to get big and spill over. So we have the green onions, which we're going to harvest. I have leeks on this end, and they're going to stay in for a long time because we want the leeks to get nice and big. So I won't be harvesting those. And the back row, of course, are my rainbow carrots, which I'll show you in just a little bit. So that's what's in this bed. I don't think there's anything else that I want to share with you, but you know, scallions grow, as I said, really fast. And here's just one of those. Now, this is kind of big. You can start harvesting scallions, green onions, spring onions when they're, you know, 8 inches tall if you want, and really slender. That's fine too. So I've actually left these in here a little bit longer than I typically like to. Because the bigger they get, sometimes they're not as tender and easy to work with. But listen, these are going to be so good in some cooking. So I'm going to harvest some of these. The other great thing about these is when I harvest some, and I actually have 2 rows, but they're getting gobbled up by these carrots. I'll bring the camera in closer so you can see what I'm talking about. But when you harvest green onions, because they grow so fast, you can leave a blank spot and then start some more seed. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to harvest today some of these bigger ones, and then probably in another week or so, I'm going to add some new fresh seed so that I can have onions like this all summer long. They love the heat. They love the sun. So yeah, you can have fresh green onions in your garden all summer. So grab the camera to get in here closer so you can get a close-up look at what I was talking about. So you can see my nasturtiums, and do you see my little drip irrigation? So I direct sowed a seed by each of these little emitters so that they're going to be well watered. And these seeds, I think I put in here maybe 2 weeks ago, and I had some really good germination. So they'll grow up and over and have gorgeous reddish pink flowers. And then, of course, on this end, you can see leeks. I talked about those. We're not harvesting those because these babies will get really thick. And in fact, this one's pretty big back here, but I won't harvest my leeks for at least a month or 2 more. Down here, of course, are the scallions that I'm harvesting today. And I mentioned to you, I have 2 rows, so you can maybe see here. This is a row here in the back. And then you can really sow onion seed close together, green onion seed, because look how skinny that is. I mean, they don't need a lot of space. And then we're going to move over here in just a minute after I harvest more green onions, and we are going to see what's under the soil and harvest some beautiful carrots. All right, let's get on the other side of this big raised bed and look at this sea of carrot foliage. Isn't that, it's just beautiful, right? Just the foliage is pretty to look at. I have been harvesting carrots out of here for easily the last month. I have thinned these carrots repeatedly when they were starting to grow, and they're really spaced still too close together. And so sometimes when that happens, you have a harder time harvesting or pulling carrots out. So look at this one. This is one of those new Corotas. That's pretty. We'll put that in the harvest basket. Let's see. I want to come down on this end to see if I can show you all a pretty one of the rainbow glow stick ones, because this variety down here on this end come in yellows, oranges, purples, magenta, and let's see what color we're gonna get from this one. All right. Ooh, pretty, a beautiful yellow carrot. So yeah, it could not be easier. Let's go down here a little further and in this jungle of carrots and see what we can see. So let me get in really close. So obviously this should have been thinned even more of these, because what happens is, of course, they compete with each other underground. Let me get this little tiny weed out of here. Goodbye. They compete underground, right? Because that's where they grow. So if I move away the soil, you can kind of see. And if your carrots are too close together underground, sometimes they get, they don't form up nice, perfectly slender carrots. They can kind of get a little wonky. So let me grab my garden spade, because I'm needing that today to get in here, because they're so close together. So sometimes I can just lift a carrot out of the soil, and sometimes I need help with a little spade. So let me loosen things up. I hope you can see this. I'm trying to do this and hold the camera at the same time. Oh, let's see. Oh, look at that. Beauty, beauty, beauty. All right, so that's it. I am just going to harvest away, kind of try to thin some of this out. So I will be harvesting on carrots all the way through fall. That's the beauty of this crop. It's not like they're done, you've got to harvest everything at once. So yeah, let me get after harvesting some more of these, thinning them out, and then we're gonna get over to this monster plant and take some of that inside the house. Let's get down to this next crop. This is the last thing that we're going to be harvesting today. No, we're not harvesting the flowers, the ageratum that I started from seed, but this is a great example of how I intermingle food crops with flower crops. And let me just come around to the other side to show you this gorgeous rainbow Swiss chard. It is magnificent. I mean, and again, I've been harvesting on this for a long time and will continue all throughout the summer. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, some people will grow this vegetable just for its ornamental qualities. And can you understand why? I mean, look at this. It is gorgeous. All right, so let me show you. I'm going to grab my pruners. Let me show you how it's best to harvest Swiss chard. So when you're harvesting, it's always best to come in to your plant and to harvest the outer leaves first. So here's a little weed that was hidden. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to come down to the bottom of the plant, and about, I don't know, 2 or 3 inches above the ground, I'm going to just make a little cut, and then I am going to be left with this. So this is a bigger leaf. It's not as big as some of the other leaves, but what I'll do is I will cut out the rib, save the greens, but I can also chop up the ribs too. So again, you just want to make your cuts and harvest the outer leaves first. And if you have leaves that, like this one, that are just gigantic, do you see? Let me put my hand next to this leaf so you can get a sense of how giant this leaf is. You know, I might not even use this for cooking, but I might cut it out so that this continues to produce more and more and more. Like these leaves down here, like enormous. I mean, that is a massive, massive leaf right there. So anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of harvesting of the bigger leaves that I'm gonna use actually in cooking. I'm not gonna use them raw. And then I'll talk to you a little bit about some recipes that I like to use. So I've made my way back in the greenhouse with my harvest from this morning. Just want to pull some things out and show you a little close-up of the harvest. So here are my carrots. I mostly got yellow and orange today, although there are magenta colored ones, believe it or not, and there are sort of red carrots out there. And that is the super fun part of harvesting carrots is, first of all, you don't know what you're going to get until you pull it out of the ground. You know, is it going to be long and skinny? Is it going to be funny shaped? And what color might it be, especially if you grow a rainbow variety like I do? Oh my goodness, there are so many ways to prepare carrots. I love carrots raw. I love carrots in soups and stews, stir fries. Oh my gosh, on and on and on. However, I will probably use this batch of carrots for roasting. Roasting could not be easier. Roasting carrots on high heat in your oven brings out the real sugar content in your carrots. So it couldn't be easier. I'm going to clean them. I'm going to, peel them. And then I am going to just toss them in really good olive oil and any kind of herbs and seasonings that you like go great with carrots. I mean, you can keep it super simple and use sea salt and cracked black pepper. Toss it all together. Stick it in a 425-degree oven. If you have a convection oven that blows hot air around, even better. And keep them in there until they're done. And it can vary depending upon the size of the carrot. That's the main thing is the carrots that you put in to roast, you want them to be a similar size. So it could be that you choose to slice them lengthwise or whatever. If they're sort of uniform in size, when they go in your oven, they'll cook at around the same rate. So I have found that I usually have to roast them only on high heat, 425 for about 15 minutes. But again, you do you. The other thing that's kind of neat to give them even more sweetness is after they're roasted, I will sometimes sprinkle them with really good aged balsamic vinegar. And I mean, just a little bit. Balsamic vinegar actually is sweeter the older it is. Some people love to put a little honey on their carrots, just a little bit, or a little really good high quality real maple syrup. So if you have a sweet tooth, carrots are the way to go. So next up, Swiss chard. Oh my goodness, you all. I mean, it's so beautiful and actually it's delicious. So try it. It could not be easier to grow. Here's what I'm going to do. As I mentioned, little tiny leaves, which I don't know if I brought any little tiny leaves in. I don't think I did, but they're best raw. But when your leaves get to the size that I harvested today, like this is one leaf. Look at that. Oh my gosh, isn't that gorgeous? So I'm not going to probably eat this raw, but what I am going to do is I'm going to remove the center stem and I'm going to use the green part. And what I'm going to do is I am going to chop this up and I'm going to make a quiche tonight for dinner. And I love to load my quiche up with fresh veggies. So actually, two of the things that we harvested today are going to go in my quiche. I'm going to chop this up and saute this with a little olive oil, salt, and garlic. And I've decided I'm also going to slice up some of these scallions. So get your saute pan out, saute up some fresh onions or some sliced Swiss chard. It's a lot like spinach. It will wilt down. And then I'm going to actually add these two beautiful vegetables that I've already sauteed into my quiche that'll have, of course, eggs and cheese and cream, maybe some ham, and bake that off, and it will be absolutely delicious. So I don't want to say goodbye to you all without sharing with you one of my favorite vegetable gardening resources. I call this my vegetable gardening Bible, and it's the vegetable gardening book, and it's written by Joe Lamp'l. I've talked about Joe a number of times in my previous videos. I had the great good fortune of meeting Joe. Joe happens to own a Yoder-built greenhouse like I do, so we have that connection, but also my master gardening group and the botanical gardens at the University of Missouri. We brought Joe here to Central Missouri a year or two ago now. It's probably been a couple years ago now, at least, to do some conferences, to do some hands-on demonstrations on seed starting, etc., for our community. Anyhow, so he wrote this book, and he actually had this book for sale for those of us that wanted it, and he actually signed my copy for me. Anyhow, if you are a new vegetable gardener or an experienced vegetable gardener that wants to constantly learn more, if you have a vegetable gardener in your life, this is the book that they need. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Thank you for coming along on this gorgeous first day of summer here in my Mid-Missouri Zone 6 garden as I got to harvest 3 delicious vegetables. So my next step, of course, will be to clean these off, to get them in my house and use them to prepare a delicious meal for my family this evening. So until next time, I wish everybody out there happy gardening.